உலகம் யாவையும் தாமுல ஆக்கலும் நிலைபெறுத்தலும் நீக்கலும் நீங்களா அழகிலா விளையாட்டுடையார் அவர் தலைவர் அன்னவர்க்கே சரணாங்களே. ஸ்ரீ விஷ்ணு சித்த குலநந்தன கல்பவல்லீம் ஸ்ரீ ரங்கராஜ ஹரிச்சந்தன யோகதிருஷ்யாம் சாட்சாத் க்ஷமா கருணா கமலா விவான்யாம் கோதாமனன்ய சரணம் பிரபத்யே. உயர்வர உயர்நலம் உடையவன் யவனவன் மயர்வர மதிநலம் அருளினன் யவனவன் அயர்வரும் அமரர்கள் அதிபதி அவனவன் துயரறு சுடரடி தொழுதெழன் மனனே. Often in life, we tend to try and grapple with these two seemingly contradictory concepts of free will versus fate. How much of the actions or the events in our lives are controlled by ourselves, and how much of it is just fate? Now, I don't think there is any conclusive answer. And if we look at our Itihāsas and Puranas, there are different stories that show both, right? Where people have tried to seemingly influence their own life or have control over what happens to their own lives. And also there are cases where human beings are seen as totally incapable of, facing the storms that life sometimes throws at us. Now, today's session or this video is not intended to give the full picture of free will versus fate or Vidhi, nor is it just the end of it. There can be multiple stories, multiple angles, perspectives in which we can look at this. But today, the intention is to just bring two stories from our Itihāsas that show how Vidhi is something that we have to submit ourselves to, right? We'll pick one story each from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and let's look at how people have often just submitted themselves to the machinations of, I wouldn't call it fate. Fate is not an exact word. This is one of the intranslatables from Sanskrit. It's Vidhi. The first story is from the Ramayana. Rama has been asked to go to the forest and he's accepted the dictum. He's preparing. The news reaches Lakshmana's ears. Lakshmana is very, very angry at the fact that Kaikeyi has done this manipulation and A, denied Rama the throne, and B, Rama has been banished to the forest. Lakshmana is very angry. The moment he hears this news, he picks up his bow, strings the bow, takes an arrow, and he's getting ready to fight. To fight whom? We don't know at this stage. And it's said that the whole of Ayodhya quivered when Lakshmana got angry. Now Rama hears the commotion. He goes to Lakshmana and asks him what's happening. Lakshmana is very upset. He asks Rama in a very bemused way, what do you mean what's happening? Do you not know what's happening? And do you not see that they have been very unfair to you? And then he rants against Bharata, against Dasharatha, and more so against Kaikeyi. Rama tries to pacify Lakshmana, and Rama says, Lakshmana, this is no one's fault, right? This is just the way Vidhi works. We just have to accept it. The fact that a river doesn't have water in it and a river goes dry is not the river's fault. It's the rain-bearing clouds that fills the river with water. So how do you blame a river for lack of water in it? So he tries to show Lakshmana that it's not Bharata or Kaikeyi or Dasharatha or anyone that are responsible. This is just Vidhi at play, and he shouldn't be angry at anyone. Now Lakshmana, youthful, hot-blooded, he picks up his bow and arrow and says, oh Rama, you say Vidhi is causing all this. Let me use my skill and teach a lesson to Vidhi. I will show Vidhi its own Vidhi. So he interestingly says, I'm going to teach Vidhi a lesson. Now Rama gets a little angry at it, and he says, stop Lakshmana, what are you talking? We have studied under Guru Vasishtha, and we have learnt Vedas, and the same mouth that recites Vedas are you using that to now curse Vidhi? And are you now saying you are going to take on and defeat Vidhi using your bow and arrow? Calm down, right? Anyway, all that happens. Lakshmana gets calmed down for a bit. They leave to the forest. Fast forward to about 10, 12 years. After being in the forest, Lakshmana is tamed, so to say. The youthful anger is replaced with maturity given by life's experiences. Having seen the highs and lows of the forest life, Lakshmana is a lot more mature now. And now is when the golden deer appears in front of Rama, Lakshmana and Sita. Sita wants it. Lakshmana immediately realizes this is not a real golden deer. It's some Maya at play. And he wants Rama and Sita. Rama also realizes there is something happening here. But Sita would insist. She has fallen to the beauty of the golden deer. She insists Rama to get the deer for her. And Rama, unable to convince her, tries to set out to get the golden deer. And Lakshmana says, Rama, hold on. If the golden deer is what Sita wants, I will go get it. Rama is okay with the idea. He says, I'll stay behind and protect Sita and you could go. And Sita then nudges Rama and says, oh, does it mean you won't get it? You won't go and get it. To her, in her mind, it's a different matter of pride if it's her own husband who's gone and gotten the deer rather than her brother-in-law. Now, when she nudges Rama, Rama also realizes there is some larger force at play here, and he sets out and asks Lakshmana to stay behind and look after or protect Sita. As Rama is gone and they are waiting behind, they hear a noise, and it looks seemingly of Rama's, and it says, "Oh Lakshmana" and "Oh Sita," and then the noise just stops. Sita is upset, she's afraid, she's worried, she thinks something's happened to Rama, and she asks Lakshmana to go look for Rama and help him out. Lakshmana again very clearly realizes this is not something. He's very confident about the strengths and the infallibility of Rama. And Lakshmana says, there is nothing that can trouble my brother. You don't have to worry. He will come back. I'm not going to leave you alone here and go. Now Sita tries to push him. She gets angry. She gets frustrated. She uses words that kind of questions his intentions behind staying back, despite she insisting him to go and look for Rama. And then eventually, as the last throw of the dice, there is a forest fire that's raging nearby. Sita threatens to fall in the fire and kill herself if Lakshmana doesn't go and look for Rama and help him. Lakshmana at this stage has given up. He says, what else can I do? He's resigned to Vidhi, and then he agrees to go. And just before he leaves, he says, oh, how wonderful the Vidhi is. How magical the Vidhi is. What can I do now, right? And he goes looking for Rama. And then we know the rest of the story, and that's the opportunity that Ravana uses to abduct Sita and take her away to Lanka. The same Lakshmana who 10, 12 years ago took his bow and arrow, youthful vigor, that arrogance, that confidence, that boiling blood, that says it will teach a lesson to Vidhi, eventually then says, oh, how beautiful Vidhi is, or how nuanced Vidhi is. You can't do anything about it. You just have to surrender to its machinations. And he goes looking for Rama. So that's an example where a strong character from our Itihāsa submits himself to Vidhi after once trying to take it on. Zoom forward to Mahabharata. Arjuna's son is Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu's son is Parikshit. Parikshit's son is Janamejaya. This story happened way after the Mahabharata war. The war is over. Janamejaya is now ruling over Bharata. And Vyasa, who is the Kulaguru, is also there in the kingdom, and he keeps visiting Janamejaya every once in a while. Once Vyasa visits Janamejaya, when Janamejaya is holding court, Janamejaya welcomes him, gives him the respect and the rituals that one needs to offer to a rishi when he visits your kingdom. And then he sees Vyasa, And Janamejaya gets into an interesting questioning session. He asks Vyasa, Vyasa, Bhagavan, people say you are a rishi who's a Trikala Jnani, who knows the past, present and the future. And just before the Mahabharata war began, could you foresee the results of the war? Vyasa says, yes, I am a Trikala Jnani and I could foresee what was about to come. He says, oh, then you should have actually stopped the war. Why did you not stop the war when you knew the terrible consequences that's going to befall both the Kaurava and the Pandava families? Vyasa just smiles and says, let it be. He doesn't venture to give an answer. Now Janamejaya is not convinced. He says, what are you smiling about? I'm asking you a question and you need to give me an answer. And a small subtext here is when the learned, when those with wisdom not give direct answers, what we are expected to be then doing is go back and reflect on our question and see if there are flaws with our question. That point was missed by Janamejaya. He persists and insists and continues to pester Vyasa, asking for an answer. So he pushes him and says, but if you knew all the bloodshed that was going to happen, if you knew so much is going to be at stake, why couldn't you stop it? Vyasa still stays patient, with a smile says, listen Janamejaya, that's not how things work. It wouldn't have been possible for me to stop the war. Janamejaya wouldn't stop. He would push Vyasa once again and he said, okay, if I take you, if you had spoken to the Kauravas and tried to stop, they might not have listened, but you could have spoken to Yudhishthira. You could have spoken to the Pandavas and they surely would have listened to you. At least when they sat for the game of dice, you could have spoken to Yudhishthira and spoken to him about the consequences and what is going to come next. He would have surely stopped. Vyasa says, no, he wouldn't have stopped. Now, that is when Janamejaya gets a little flustered and he asks Vyasa, what do you mean? I don't think this is a valid reason. You're not giving me a clear answer. You surely knew what was happening and you didn't do anything to stop. I don't get what this is all about. Vyasa gets a little troubled with that and Vyasa gets up and says, okay, if you think predicting what's going to happen will help prevent the event, I'm telling you the 10th day from today, you are going to commit an act that is going to accrue Brahmahati dosha on you, the sin of killing a Brahmana. You're going to get Brahmahati dosha 10th day from today. And Vyasa leaves the palace. Now Janamejaya is massively upset. he was curious, right? He was in his debate, he was trying to prove to Vyasa that it is someone's inaction that caused the war. And in his intellectual ego, he got into a bit of a mess now. So Vyasa has gone. Janamejaya calls all his ministers and asks them on what to do next. Now one of them suggests, why don't you do a yaga, and that way you don't actually go out or cause trouble, so you can try and avoid this. Now they go and ask a number of panditas, purohitas, to see if someone can perform a yaga which would last the whole of 10 days. Now not many agree. There is one Brahmana purohita who agrees. He agrees to do this yaga. He comes. Now Janamejaya clearly instructs his soldiers. He creates a clear circumference, no-go zone, just the pandita and him. And there's a huge homa kunda and yaga is started. And for 9 days and nights and 10 days and nights, the yaga is to happen. Janamejaya is the yajamana. He's sitting next to the pandita, and the pandita, the brahmana, does the yaga. He's clearly instructed the soldiers to not let anyone near him till 10 days pass. His point is, if he can somehow try and avoid that Brahmahati dosha, he can then go back and prove a point. A, he will also escape from the consequences. B, he can also prove to Vyasa that, look, if you clearly tell me, you've told me this, and I've been able to, using my own intelligence, outsmart Vidhi. So the yaga starts, no one's allowed nearby, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 9 days. The yaga is happening day and night. There is a lot of, yaga dravya, ghee and others being poured into the Agni, and the Agni is still on, and the Purohita is doing, the Pandita is doing the yaga. 10th day, 24 hours left, 20 hours left, 15 hours left, 10 hours left. Very, very close. Literally, they come to the last 15 minutes, and Janamejaya heaves a sigh of relief and he says, 15 more minutes. If I can somehow not move, just stay here and prevent accruing Brahmahati dosha, I would have, won over Vidhi's play. 10 minutes to go, 8 minutes to go, 3 minutes to go, and then he is really, really happy. It's literally a couple of minutes now, and I'm going to, come out cleaner out of it. He just turns, it's just about a minute to go, he just turns and looks at the Pandita. The Pandita has been non-stop without sleep or food, has been doing the yaga for 10 days. For a moment, the Pandita seems to be dozing off. He's not sleeping, the mouth is reciting, the lips are reciting the Vedas, the mantras, but he somehow seems to be dozing off a little bit. Now, Janamejaya feels, what's this Pandita doing? It's literally just a minute left. He should be cautious. He should just finish it properly without any hindrance. Now, he doesn't know how to alert the Pandita. So what he does, there is a clutch of darbha grass that is placed next. He can't touch someone who's doing a yaga. So he takes the darbha and gently touches him, places it on his shoulder to alert the Pandita and say, stay awake. It's just a minute left. The moment Janamejaya places the darbha, touches the Pandita with the darbha, immediately he wakes up and then moves forward, jumps into the Homakunda, and he gets burned to death. He dies. Janamejaya is literally devastated, right? He comes out of the Yaga Mandapa, comes to the palace. He's actually accrued Brahmahati dosha now, and he's waiting, and Vyasa appears. Vyasa comes. Vyasa says, Janamejaya, I had told you something. Has it happened? Janamejaya says, I'm sorry I had that argument with you. I couldn't win over Vidhi. Though you had predicted what was to come, I couldn't defeat it. Vyasa says, that is what Vidhi is. Janamejaya says, I understand now, but tell me one thing. How did that happen? The Pandita was perfectly fine. I was only trying to alert him. How did this event play out? Now Vyasa, who's a Trikala Jnani, looks into what's happened and he says, I can see what's happening. The Pandita, poor Pandita, who's been doing yaga for 10 days non-stop, just momentarily went into a space where he got a dream. His lips were still reciting the Vedas, he was still doing the ritual, but his mind had kind of switched off a little bit and he had gone into a dream zone very momentarily. And in the dream, he was in the forest, walking alone, and then a tiger all of a sudden appeared behind him and started chasing him. He's trying to run his best and the tiger's approaching, and he was running as fast as he could and he just couldn't go any faster, and the tiger was very, very close. Just when the tiger was almost besides him and lifted its paws to kind of place on him, that is the moment you noticed and took the clutch of darbha grass and placed it on his shoulder. Now the Brahmana is still in his dream zone. He thought it was a tiger's claws that's caught up with him, and to try and escape it, he just leapt forward, and he actually leapt forward in real and fell into the Agni Kunda. And that's how he died. Now it was his Vidhi that his life had to end like that, and it was Janamejaya's Vidhi as well to still accrue that Brahmahati dosha. Anyway, then there are rituals done to kind of get rid of the dosha, whatever. But the point about Vidhi, one aspect of Vidhi is the way Vidhi functions is such that you may sometimes know what's about to come, what's about to happen. You may have the absolute ability to kind of prevent that from happening, but you will not be able to prevent it. That is one of the many nuances of Vidhi. Now, as I said at the beginning, Vidhi is a very, very broad ocean in itself as a topic. Again, this talk is not to try and find a solution to, is there free will? Are we all bound by fate? That's not a topic for today. But these are two instances where from the Itihāsas we see that knowing what's about to come and having the ability still will not help us to prevent some of the happenings in our lives, because that is Vidhi at play. Now for another day, another session, another video, we can look at, does it mean then we are totally fatalistic? Then what is the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life, etc. Anyway, that's a longer topic, right? But I think the wise, the mature, those who have gone through the experiences of life will say, what's happening to us today is driven by past actions. It's Vidhi, and the only way to face it is A, submit it to the will of the Vidhi, B, seek support or help from the gods, from your Ishta Devata, your Kula Devata, Paramatma. Seek their help, right? And they will help us tide over the crisis or be with us to strengthen us to kind of go through that journey of what Vidhi brings to us. Poomannu Porundiya Marban Puganmalinda Pamannumar Adipanindo Indavan Palgalayor Tammannavan Dairamanusam Saranaravindam Nammanni Vaழ Nenje Sollu Avannamangale உலகம் யாவையும் தாமுலாக்கலும் நிலைபெறுத்தலும் நீக்கலும் நீங்களா அழகிலா விளையாட்டுடையார் அவர் தலைவர் அன்னவர்க்கே சரணாங்களே.